Bees are part of the Apidae family and from the order of Hymenoptera. Honeybees are social bees and live in large groups. The following video will display a number of behaviors exhibited by the honeybee. We will focus on one behavior. In this case, the behavior is walking. In lecture, we discussed Tinbergen's 4 levels of analysis, including causation, development, evolution, and function. We will break down this behavior into each of these levels. For each level of analysis, I will generate a hypothesis in order to explain why the behavior of walking occurs in honeybees. The first hypothesis I have generated in relation to the analysis of proximate causation or control, in other words, how do the limbs of a honeybee work, is that a honeybee has 3 pairs of legs that work and function similar to a human's hip, thigh, shin, and foot, allowing the honeybee to land and walk on a variety of different surfaces. Honeybee limbs adapting to functions similar to human and other insect limbs was suggested in scientific literature in 1925 by a man named Phillips to aid in locomotion for a number of reasons, such as exploring new environment, tasting, or regulating metabolic temperature. The second hypothesis I have generated in relation to the analysis of development, or how did the honeybee develop limbs, is that a honeybee developed limbs by a heritable ancestral trait in order to adapt to changing environments. The PNAS published scientific literature to support these findings by creating a phylogenetic tree and performing DNA samplings. This allowed them to explore how honeybees evolve such ancestral traits, including limbs. The third hypothesis I generated in relation to the analysis of function, or what are the limbs of a honeybee used for, is that a honeybee uses its limbs for locomotion on land, collecting pollen, and manipulating objects. Well, Phillips conducted research on the anatomy of a honeybee, and in his article, he suggests that limbs are used to serve a number of different purposes, as a result of a number of different specialized structures, including brush-like hairs that aid in collecting pollen, a claw and a pad to aid in the manipulation and holding of objects. The fourth hypothesis I've generated in relation to the analysis of evolutionary or phylogeny, how did the limbs of the honeybee evolve, in other words, is that the limbs of a honeybee evolved from an ancestral trait in order to improve terrestrial life by allowing the locomotion on land, to aid in self-regulation of body temperature, improve feeding structures, and allow for the manipulation of objects. Cornell University researched honeybees and how they metabolically heat or cool themselves. As a result, they concluded that honeybees are ectotherms, and therefore the evolution of limbs served to aid in locomotion in order to move into or out of the shade for heating and cooling purposes. Phylogenetic analysis of DNA sequences in honeybees conducted by the NCBI corresponds with my hypothesis, showing that limbs increased the fitness of honeybees, and as a result, the trait of limbs is favored and therefore heritable. The behavior of walking in honeybees relates to a number of different concepts covered in lecture, including animal traits, environmental adaptations, in relation to anatomy, behavior, and physiology. The form and function of limbs in honeybees relating to locomotion, thermal regulation, and feeding structures are all types of environmental adaptations. Honeybees are ectotherms. They use a combination of mechanisms in order to regulate their body temperature, such as behavioral, morphological, and physiological, as Cornell University concluded that honeybees use their limbs to walk into and out of the sun or shade. In lecture, we talked about Darwin evolution by natural and sexual selection and the evolution of limbs in honeybees for walking. Darwin proposed that individuals with traits best suited to the environment would succeed. In relation to Darwin's theory, the heritable trait of limbs was favored as a result of an increase in the fitness of honeybees.